Hello and welcome to Waves of YA, a podcast focused on YA literacy brought to you by the Ocean County Library's Teen Literacy Work Group. My name is Chris. I'm a teen librarian at the Lakewood branch. Joining me today we have...
I am Brielle. I'm also a Lakewood YA teen librarian.
And I am Rachel. I am a teen librarian at the Barnegat branch.
Today's episode will be focused on dystopian novels. Do you have a favorite dystopian novel?
I can start with this one. One of my very favorite dystopian novels, and this is also the novel that kind of got me really into reading, is The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I love that series. So that book takes place in a dystopian world where people are separated by blood. So you have either red or silver blood, and the red bloods are commoners. They live in poverty, don't have much to eat. And then the silvers are elite, and they have godlike superpowers. And the main character is Mare Barrow, who is a 17-year-old red girl from the stilts. And then she gets a job at a silver palace as a servant, and then she finds out she has superpowers, but she has red blood. So she's like, how can this be? So the silver elites kind of hide her in plain view as a long-lost silver princess. And she knows not to defy the rules or anything they're asking her to do because she knows it could cost her life. She is silently working with a Red Guard, a military resistance group, to bring down the Silver Regiment. And she's able to give them information from inside the Silver Palace where she's being hidden by the Silver Elite. It is a series of about 4 books, I think, and they're wonderfully written. I love those books so much.
They're relatively new. I never heard of that.
They're not real new. I think the first one came out in like 15 or 16, 2015.
Like newer.
Yeah.
Like new. They're like past a decade old, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Word choices.
That author also wrote Realmbreaker.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah.
That's a duology. Yeah. She's the same author.
We shave them. We shelve them often.
We shave them.
Those go out a lot in our branch.
Okay.
So those two we definitely have seen. I really like the We Set the Dark on Fire duology by Taylor K. Mayha. The first book is from Danny's perspective, and the second book is from Carmen's. And in the society, the wealthy people get 2 wives, one to basically run your household, do all the financing, budgeting, hard math kind of things, and one to like be softer and raise the kids and be like flowery and girly. And Danny faked her identity basically as a child to be trained to do this, to like have a better chance at life, so that way she's not living outside the walls of like the city that has like all the money, and rise above her station. And she gets like one of the resistance groups reaches out to her and is like, hey, look, you're getting married to like the prince, so we need you to like be our inside man and try and like screw things up and get us information. And she's like, no, I'm already like faking my identity, like this is not my jam. And they're like, yeah, we know you're faking your identity, we're gonna screw everything up for you if you don't help us. So it's like her kind of like figuring out where her morals lie. She in it for just herself and to help everyone. And then she's like living there with Carmen, the other wife, and she's like, oh, I'm not like real into the prince. I am kind of into Carmen though. And then like the second book, you get Carmen's perspective and like what's going on with Carmen and her like life. And like the two of them kind of trying to figure out how to work together and like, where does everyone stand? So it was really cool and really enjoyable with the politics, and then also like a little bit of romance. And the other one I read recently was Cake Eater by Alison Dolan, which is a futuristic dystopian about Marie Antoinette basically being a clone, or to be basically new Marie Antoinette, except a little more aware of what's going on. And so it's cool because it blends history. So you're like, Marie Antoinette famously got her head chopped off, so where are we going with this YA novel?
Saw that one.
Yeah, it's like just a ticking clock of like,
it looked interesting.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. So like, if you know history, you're like, we know where things are going. How are we getting there? Also, are we really going to kill off our protagonist?
I feel like that would make people want to keep reading the book too, because if you know how it ends, then you just want to know like how they're going to get there.
Yeah. I guess my favorite as a child was The City of Ember. We actually talked about that at the middle school recently, like in the fall. And I think they still sometimes read it in the schools, but it's just fun. It's like a very wholesome, fun, almost treasure hunty story about the society that is living underground, but they're losing resources and are trying to figure out a way to get above ground before the lights go out. And I just really like the dynamic between the two main characters. I think it might be hinted that they might like each other, but it wasn't focused on romance. It was like really just focused on uncovering like the truth behind the politics of the town and why they're losing stores of power and like how to get above ground. It was just very fun action adventure book. I remember enjoying that a lot as a child. And then I also have The Giver, I have Dune, honorable mention Fahrenheit 451. So all of mine are a bit old, but I like my grandma choices.
I love Fahrenheit 451. It's our whole thing. Don't ban books.
Yeah. Some of them I read for school, but like, so some things are a little tainted if like you've read them for school or you have to read them for school. But then sometimes I've gone back as an adult or even later and I've reread some of our school reads and I've still enjoyed them.
Now that actually leads us into our second question of how does classic and modern day dystopia differ?
Yeah, and I think I brought that up with you earlier because like there's a lot of bleed over, especially with sci-fi. So the follow-up question to that is like, where is the hard line? I'm not saying there isn't dystopian fantasy as well, but it usually like leans sci-fi. I think dystopian is a subgenre underneath fantasy and sci-fi, but I think the emphasis has to be on society and how they're set up and what they're doing and how they deal with it. Just like how society has crumbled and this now dystopian way of managing people has come about and the wrongs it's doing and the characters trying to push back against that. Because there's plenty of dystopian settings in sci-fi and fantasy, but the focus isn't completely on that.
Yeah, it's like sci-fi, dystopian. I always differentiate between post-apocalyptic. Like there's a moral and like kind of like a goal for it. Like I love the Mad Max movies, but like that's post-apocalyptic. They're not telling me like, hey, like Ray Bradbury very much was like, don't ban books, don't just get sucked into like watching TV and listening to the radio all the time. Like, cool, that was a moral to this dystopian. Mad Max is like, we're gonna go have adventures and like basically it's just him trying to get his stuff back all the time.
Yeah, I haven't read too much classic dystopians besides what I did for school. I read Animal Farm for a summer reading book, and I didn't even like it that much. It was really weird. It was just about a pig that walks on two legs, and I don't even have much to say about it. It was just really weird.
It's all historical allegory. So like my teacher used to be a history teacher, so she got like real deep into the history. And like Oingo Boingo has a song about it too. Yeah. So it's just like, oh, I love this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the emphasis on society and how it's oppressing our main cast is what makes it more of a dystopian than just like a general post-apocalyptic or sci-fi or fantasy novel. And then I feel like the common themes of the human spirit and resilience and teamwork are kind of central focus around those as well.
Yeah.
I find another central focus is also like that big figure that people worship collectively. Like I know in 1984, that's kind of what that was about. Because I also find that classic dystopian might predict the near future, I kind of feel like. Because 1984 came out in what, the 40s? The 1940s? The 60s?
60s, yeah.
So it's like they were saying like, this is what the world's going to be like in 20 years. And I mean, yeah, there are some books that are like, this is what North America is going to be like in the year 3000. But like, we're not going to be alive to see that.
Yeah.
So...
the older stuff is a little bit more immediate. Like Fahrenheit 451 ends with a nuclear bomb going off because it's like kind of like Cold War era, and then The Handmaid's Tale is like set 5 years from now or something like crazy soon. It only lasts like 5 years, and they're like, it's collapsed immediately. It was unsustainable.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit earlier too, but I also think it's just like the level of reading. Like some of the more classic dystopian novels, like 1984 or even Feed a little bit.
Yeah, I love M.T. Anderson's Feed is fantastic.
The reading level is a bit higher because I think it's just now a classic novel. And so things from anywhere between the 40s to the early 80s read a bit drier and have more elevated language, whereas modern day is more geared towards the reading level of middle and high schoolers.
And it's more accessible for them. Like, they're the ones that are gonna make the change. Like, not the adults. Like, this, like they're like, oh, it's dystopian sci-fi. It's for like adults and the mature, and like they're smart enough to handle it and mature enough. And I'm like, yeah, give it to the teens and like the middle schoolers. They are kind of fully capable of handling this and like understanding the themes.
Yeah.
And also being able to like look and apply and be like, where are the change? Like, that's the demographic that's going to be the change for things that people are like, you have the chance to like change things while you're young.
Yeah.
So we can shift now instead of like, well, missed that chance.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, accessibility is important. So like if you compare the reading level of the first Hunger Games to 1984 reads like a textbook. And I get why it's important to talk about, and the concepts in the books, especially the older dystopian novels, are really important to talk about because they parallel today's world, like you were saying, Rachel. But like the reading level is just so much higher and drier. Whereas Hunger Games, you can kind of relate more to the characters. The reading level is a little easier. You kind of just very quickly go through it. So I feel like that's the kind of a big difference in what makes them more accessible.
Yeah, they're more character focused than like
more first person.
Yeah, first person. Like, you get to feel the feelings.
Third person and like omnipresent was still pretty big in older novels. So I think making YA first person had a big shift in relatability and accessibility for young readers.
What are some of the favorite factors, situations, characteristics that make up dystopian society or dystopian novels for you guys?
I think definitely the cornerstone is how the society is working. So the general world building setting, and especially the way the government works, usually that's a big focus on what system is governing the people and therefore oppressing them.
Yeah, I know one of my favorites is also the dystopian world is something that we feel like could be a utopia, but it's actually a dystopia, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think a good example of that is the book Scythe by Neil Shusterman. And that takes place in a world where we have ridded the world of all natural death. So there's no crime, there's no disease. If you jump off a building, they will bring you back to life. But how to stop the world from becoming overpopulated, they have scythes who end lives. So 2 teens get taken on as a scythe's apprentice, which neither of them really want. And they're basically told, here are 5 people. Pick who you want to kill today. So you can't kill too much. You can't do it too little. It's like you have to keep the world in balance. And, you know, thinking of like, oh, me nor my family is going to get sick and die. Like, that sounds awesome. But no, it's really not, because you could turn around and a scythe could be standing right behind you at any moment in life.
I wanted to read that. It looks really good.
Yeah, I was like, this cover looks great. And I just, based off the cover, I'm like, I want to read this. No idea what the plot is. So thank you for telling me.
Very popular at our branch.
It's super popular. The middle school also really enjoyed it as well. So I know it goes out.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to be like required reading at some point, possibly in like 5 years.
Yeah,
right. It's not already, because like you can have good discussions about ethics and morals and stuff like that in it too.
Yeah,
if you can have kids read Lord of the Flies, they can read Scythe.
Oh, I forgot Lord of the Flies.
That is technically dystopian. Even though it's contemporary, they create their own dystopia just by situation.
Don't leave a bunch of school kids on an island.
Don't cut pigs' heads off.
Oh. Have you read Beauty Queens by Leva Bray?
No.
Okay, it's basically it's a plane crashes with a bunch of beauty queens, and it's making fun of Lord of the Flies.
Oh,
so instead of creating a dystopian, they like work together. They're like, we've got that beauty queen spirit. Everything is great. How are we going to make the world better?
Lord of the Flies satire?
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's really funny. And then you find out that there's more going on the island they crashed on. But like at one point, and like Leva Bray has like dark humor. So like one of the girls has like the tray table lodged in her head, and they can't take it out. So they're just like, this is how we're living for now.
New hat.
Yeah. But they're like, all right, well, my talent for the pageant was sewing. I can sew together clothing for us. And someone's like, oh, mine was carpentry. I can build things. And it's them like working together and then also like figuring out what's going on with this island.
That's funny. I like that a lot.
Oh, it's so good.
I also can't imagine though a beauty pageant's talent being carpentry. Like, what was she gonna do? Like, build a birdhouse on stage?
Carves a duck.
I guess that's not the point, but it's like
Yeah, and, like they all had like different skills that like could tie into survival, but like if you just applied it differently than for the pageant, it was really cool.
It sounds like magical girls.
Right, and they're like, we're gonna work together, and like they do have like some like factiony like breaking off, but like for the most part, they're like, we are beauty queens. We are going to act as though we are on stage for this pageant. Well-behaved women, we are going to win this pageant, or make sure our island does not evolve into chaos. So the question is still favorite factors and situations for dystopian. I really like that it's like one person that can make a difference, kind of like the see something, say something of like everyone, like you said, it's most people perceive it to be a utopia, but like one person's like, this is wrong. And like once normally that one person speaks up or like does something against the rules, it's like a little ripple domino effect of they didn't do anything huge, but it was enough for other people to be like, you're right, and start making the change. So they don't necessarily do something massive, but by the end, it is a huge difference and it has completely shaped the world from like basically like ripple effect, throw a stone into the pond, see where it goes. I do like that, like, it's one person, but like they work with other people. They're not like, I'm the hero alone. It's like, I'm the hero that has now made a whole network of other people to help them like work together.
Yeah, that's why I brought the theme up of teamwork, because that kind of winds up being a central part to the plot as the story goes on.
Yeah.
It takes a village to overthrow a dystopia.
Pretty much. Like, and then our other one is, what are your favorite dystopian novels that have been made into movies?
I've seen many, but I don't have like a favorite, but I do really, really like the new Dune, because Timothée Chalamet is ooh. But it's also a truer adaptation of the book. Because don't get me wrong, I love 1984 Dune, but I love it for a very different reason. And I've met purists who are like, no, that movie is great. It's so good. And I'm like, adaptation? I feel like the newer Dune is truer to the book. I mean, the book is still like way more graphic and violent. Both movies dumb down the violence a little bit, but I just don't like how glossed over the second and a good portion of the third book is in the original film. Whereas the newer films are actually taking the time and making it a trilogy and following the book and fleshing it out a lot more. So I feel like it's a much truer adaptation of Dune than the 1984 one, even though that one is also very good.
That was an experience. I watched it years ago and I'm just like, what's happening?
I actually rewatched it with my husband around Halloween this past year, and it was just it was just hilarious, truly. But yeah, they really like gloss over the second book. They just kind of narrate over it and say the highlights of it, and then boom, the ending is happening, and then all of a sudden it's over, and I feel like I've missed something. So I'm really glad that they're taking it and revamping it in the new series.
Now, I haven't seen the Dune movie or read the book, but I feel like taking their time with it can also have people like lose interest too. Because like if you compare that to like the Hunger Games, they did one movie for each book, and then the last one was like split into two parts. And by the time Mockingjay came around, I wasn't even interested anymore, because it's like, I don't want to see part one and then have to wait another year for part two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was like trend chasing though, because
I feel like Harry Potter did it first.
Got split in half and like kind of needed to be. It was like
and then Twilight did it, and then Hunger Games did it. Yeah.
And then so they're just kind of like trend chasing of like, oh, the last book needs to be split into two, and I was like, this is unnecessary. Like you said, that was unnecessary.
Movies have also been trending towards becoming longer. Whereas when we were kids, they were like a lot shorter. They were an hour to an hour and a half. Now it's like 2 hours and a half to 3 hours Avatar. But I feel like that's also part of that, where they wanted to trend longer, but instead of just committing to one long film, they just cut it into two. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I do not have the like attention span. Like I can't stay in a movie theater for 3 hours. Like plus credits, plus
previews. Yeah.
like, you can book your seat. I'm going to slide in like 5 minutes before the movie starts. So I'm like, I can show up like 20 minutes late. Still pretty used to it.
I feel very towards both Divergent and The Hunger Games. I don't know which one I prefer over the other. I guess Divergent's slightly more interesting based on the characters. I don't know which one to put above the other.
I've only read and watched The Hunger Games, and I have not done either for Divergent, so I cannot contribute other than like, I enjoyed The Hunger Games. The only one I've read in this situation.
My feelings towards them are the same, which is just kind of like, both the movies and the books. Although I think the book for Divergent's a bit better. Yeah, the writing is pretty good.
I know for this question, I had 2 movies in mind. I put down The Maze Runner. I read the book and then watched the movie. I thought the movie was terrible, so I can't even say it's my favorite.
I only watched the movie.
I've only watched the movie as well.
And like, I only watched the movie at all because I was watching Teen Wolf, and I was like, all right, Dylan O'Brien.
Oh, Dylan O'Brien's in it?
I was like, all right, let's go watch this. And I was like, I have no basis for comparison of like, how is this compared to the book? But I was like, well, that's a movie. And I was like, oh, it's the kid that plays Newt that does not age. And I can never remember his name.
Yeah, it's like when you read the book first, then the movie is terrible. The general concept was the same, where it's boys in a maze and they're trying to get out, but all the events that lead up to the ending are completely different. And I was like, what is this?
I didn't know that.
I'm like, this is not what I read. So,
yeah. Going back to old ones, there's also the original movies for Fahrenheit 451 and 1984. I've had to watch both for school. The 1984 movie is a very, very true adaptation of the book, which means it's just as boring watching it as it is reading. I kind of maybe have nodded off in class during that one. The film for Fahrenheit 451, and I'm talking like the 1966 one, is a wild watch. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's very avant-garde.
Oh, maybe
like,
I have.
Just the way it's shot and just like how it plays out. The audio is a bit garbled, but it's 1966, so like, I don't know. But then it doesn't end with like, I guess spoilers for a movie from 1966, but like it doesn't end with the like bomb going.
Yeah, I spoiled the end of the book already.
They go off into the woods and like go live with, I guess, the rebels.
I mean, they do in the book, and then the bomb goes off.
They just kind of nix the bomb happening. They just kind of let them wander. Like the movie just kind of ends. They wander off into the woods, and that's it.
I like found out there was a movie, and there was a new movie as well. I was very confused because I was like,
yeah,
Ray Bradbury hated radio.
Yeah.
Like, not television. I was like, oh, it's against television. I'm like, it is, but it's mostly against radio. Like, that man did not support radio broadcasts. And he greenlit he was dead for the second movie, but like he greenlit a movie for his book against radios. Yeah. So I was like, how did we get here? I'm like, probably you need money. It was a speculation, but like,
I heard mixed things about the 2018 version.
I just didn't even. I was like no.
I heard that if you watch the original movie, it's better than the original movie, but it's still kind of meh. So I haven't seen that. I did like the serial for The Handmaid's Tale.
I watched season 1.
Well, like they continue making more past where the book ends. So anything past that season, I completely lost interest. It kind of was like they backpedaled on all the character development and stuff and started people from square one, and I didn't like that. So like anything past like the second guy's house didn't make any sense to me. So once they ran out of the source material, they just kind of threw spaghetti at the wall. And I kind of just stopped watching at that point. But if you watch the first 3 seasons, it's okay.
That also makes me think of, it's not a dystopian, but have you ever seen 13 Reasons Why, that TV show?
I have a very staunch, big, fat no towards both the book and the TV show.
But, well, I did both of them, but what I'm trying to say is it kind of made me think of the same thing, because after season 1 of the TV show, they ran out of the material for the book. So then they kind of continued the story beyond the book. And I feel like they exploded the story like out of proportion and made it 10 times more dramatic than it actually was for the sake of making a watchable, bingeable TV show. And I love the book. I thought the book was beautiful. And then I watched the TV show and I'm like, yeah, it follows the book really well, but they just made 10 times more of the drama, which was completely unnecessary.
I mean, as an anime fan, they often do us dirty like that, where they continue well past the source material and make it bad.
Yeah. Speaking of anime, one of the things I have down for dystopian novels into movies is Battle Angel Alita.
Yeah. The movie's goofy.
I remember reading the manga like 15 years ago at this point and like really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And like, you're like, oh, I like this. We have it on, I want to say Libby or Hoopla. Like we have it digitally.
Yeah.
And then be like, I loved it. Do I remember any of it? Not greatly. I just remember she's a cyborg and like random chunks of it since it had been so long. And I was like, oh, they're going to make it into a movie. And I'm like, I don't know why I got excited. I knew this was going to go badly.
It wasn't as gritty. Like,
No, it was
it
way
made
good.
it kind of nice. And I'm like, the whole point of it being a dystopia is for it to not be nice. Like, I don't want to live in this world. And like the original manga makes it so that like, and I think that also lends to like comic books and graphic novels where the visuals can help elevate the story. So it being kind of gritty and dark made you really feel bad for the characters. Whereas it was kind of bright and fun in the movie.
It was very neon.
And I'm like, that doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah.
And her eyeballs are funny.
I enjoyed this, but it's definitely not the source material vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
Did either of you read or watch Sweet Tooth?
No.
So we definitely have it digitally. I'm pretty sure we have it print now as well, but it's not YA. But it's a Netflix adaptation, so teens might or might not have watched it. Where the protagonist is a boy born with antlers.
Yes.
And it is dark and it is gritty.
It's like new adult.
It's new adult, yeah. It is real dark and gritty and like very much like the world kind of ended. So you find out, like he's young or 9, but you find out that like the world kind of ended about when he was born, and he's never been outside like a forest preserve because like he's a kid with antlers. So it's like him trying to survive on his own after his father passes away, and then like going out into the world, finding out about what the world outside is like.
I wanted to watch that. It looked really good. My mother-in-law watched it. She recommended it to us, and she said it was hard to describe. It was odd, but in a good way. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's like dark and depressing, but like I just marathoned the graphic novels for it, and then was like,
I didn't know it was a graphic novel.
it's a graphic novel. So like they're really easy to go through.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's another good dystopian of like, it's definitely like a little more above like YA level in parts.
Have you ever
But if you're reading like The Walking Dead, stuff like that, you're at that level.
They're a real niche pick that my husband and I watched all 3 seasons of is Dark. Have you ever seen Dark?
No.
It came onto Netflix when Stranger Things started getting kind of big. And it's in the same vein of Stranger Things, but not like monsters and dimensional stuff, but it's also a German show, but we watched it in the English dub over, which I was skeptical about because I didn't want to have like a Godzilla moment, but it wasn't bad. You can watch it in the English dub over and it's pretty okay. It's the wildest thing. My husband and I still talk about it to this day because it just goes places. It has to do with like time travel, and you don't think it's dystopian, but it does have to deal with parallel timelines. So you have like the main timeline that branches, and like in the other branches, once this particular event on this particular day happens, the dystopian happens. So it's like the world ending, and then like you wind up switching timelines and seeing where some of the characters end up. It's so insane. The first 2 seasons are like very, very good, and just the first 1 to 3 episodes is very slow because you're setting up all the people in the town, and all the people in the town have like skeletons in their closet, and they're all interconnected through misdeeds they've done to each other. And it's because of this like butterfly effect that the end of the society happens. So then you wind up following a couple of the characters who go back or forward in time, and you can see where society winds up and how people are managing like past it crumbling and everything like that. And it's all like a butterfly effect, the result of two people's decisions, really, which is so wild. The third season goes off the rails completely. I remember when my mom was binging through it and she's like, I'm so lost in season 3. And I'm like, just trust me, watch the whole way through. And then the final episode explains everything and it ends and you're just like, wow, that was insane. I want to say it's very good. It's just very, very, very strange and you have to have the patience to watch it.
I have a hard time keeping up with TV shows, so I don't think that's the one for me.
No, that's true. Don't. You would probably drop off somewhere in season 2.
Yeah, I need like a buddy to be like, we're keeping watching this. I'm like, okay, like you kind of gotta like, I'm not great on following up on TV shows either. I'm like,
and like I said, it's a German TV show as well. Just like the way, like, I guess it's written, it's formatted, like storytelling might be a little bit different, but like I find that interesting. Yeah. So yeah.
Are there any other dystopian books that you want to mention or bring up?
I think we hit the big ones, right?
We actually did not talk about anything by Marie Lu. We actually missed like a lot of like major dystopian authors.
Is that like Cinder and
no, that's Marissa Meyer. We missed a bunch of like major like dystopian names.
I'm old and I haven't read the new books.
All right. So Marie Lu did Warcross, where she's a hacker that gets like brought in.
Yeah.
Like she's hacking and then she gets caught by the government. The government's like, you work for us now. Like, and then she's like trying to still work from the inside as a hacker. And it's like video game kind of based.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brandon Sanderson, I think all of his are also dystopian. I just haven't read any of his.
I don't know. You're edging towards like new adult tail end of YA, but I really enjoyed Cyberpunk Edge Runners. That destroyed my soul in the best way possible. Studio Trigger at its finest. And even though it's not a book, it's based on the game, which is dystopian, which is, you know, very, I guess you could throw in Blade Runner in there too, because it's kind of in the same vein.
Yeah.
I don't know, was Blade Runner a book?
Blade Runner is based on the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick.
Have you seen, obviously the original and then like the newer one with Ryan Gosling?
Yes. So I've marathoned them, so they blurred into one movie.
It kind of is. Yeah. I enjoyed the second one. I think a bit more than like other people did. But I also really like the original Blade Runner.
You have any others?
The only other big one I really, really like is In Ember and the Ashes series by Saba Tahir. I only read the first one so far because these books are really long and I'm a slow reader. So I have a hard time binging series one right after the other. But I really, really like the first one. That book is about the Martial Empire, who is ruled by the Emperor. And everybody knows not to defy the Emperor because you know what happens, because bad things happen to those who do. So the main character, Laia, lives with her grandparents and her brother, and her grandparents are killed by the Emperor's soldiers, and her brother is arrested for treason. So in order to get her brother out of prison, Laia enlists the help of the Rebel Alliance, who agrees to help her break her brother out of prison. And in exchange, Laia has to spy for them in the Empire's greatest military academy, which is a really hard job. And there, Laia meets Elias, who is the school's finest soldier, but he's also the school's most unwilling soldier. He really doesn't want to enforce the laws or anything like that. And they kind of realize they need each other's help in order to get what each of them wants. So I think there's 4 or 5 in the series, but they are pretty long, but they're pretty quick reads. They're not hard to understand or anything like that, but I really enjoyed them.
Like the author name sounds familiar, but
yeah. She also wrote All My Rage, which like just came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to check out the Ocean County Library's website for more podcasts and events. All titles mentioned in today's episode can be found through the Ocean County Library, free with your library card. Until next time, happy reading.